We live on a planet that is constantly moving, constantly changing. And nothing really shows off its raw power quite like a volcano. They are, in a very real sense, Earth's great architects, shaping the world we know in the most dramatic way you can imagine. But just how much of our world do we actually owe to them? I think the answer is going to surprise you. Take a look at this number, 80%. Just let that sink in for a second. What if I told you that this single figure, it represents the influence of one single geological force over the entire surface of our planet?
That's right, over 80% of the Earth's surface, we're talking both above and below the sea, was formed by volcanic activity. I mean, from the vast plains we farm on to the soaring mountains we climb, they are the architects of the very ground that's right under our feet.
So the big question is, how did they do it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to take a journey from the planet's fiery core all the way to its crust. We'll dive into Earth's inner fire. We'll dissect the anatomy of a volcano, understand the different personalities of lava, meet a whole family of volcanic landforms, pinpoint their global hotspots, and then finally, weigh their role as both a creator and a destroyer. Okay, so let's start with the most basic question of all. Why do we even have volcanoes in the first place? Well, it all comes down to the absolutely immense heat that's trapped deep, deep within our planet.
The whole process is called volcanism. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a planetary-scale pressure cooker. You've got this huge temperature difference between the super hot inner layers and the much cooler outer crust. This drives these massive, slow-moving currents in the mantle, forcing molten rock to find any weak spot it can and just erupt onto the surface.
Now, to really get how this all works, we kind of need to look inside one. So let's take a quick tour of a volcano's structure, starting from that deep reservoir of rock all the way up to its towering peak.
First up, let's get our terms right, because this is important. It all starts with magma. This is superheated molten rock that's located deep within the Earth's mantle. The crucial thing to remember is this: as long as it's underground, it's called magma.
But the moment that same molten rock breaks through the crust and erupts out onto the surface, its name changes. Now, we call it lava. It's the exact same stuff, just in a different location. Simple as that. This slide shows the whole journey perfectly. Let's trace the path together. See the magma reservoir way down at the bottom? That's the source. From there, the magma travels up through that central pipe, that's called a conduit, and then it exits through the vent at the top, becoming the lava flows and ash clouds we see during an eruption. Now, as you know, not all eruptions are the same, right? Some are these incredibly violent explosions, while others are just these gentle, flowing rivers of rock. And the secret to a volcano's personality, its shape, its power, its behavior, it all comes down to one thing: the type of lava it produces. And there are two main types. Over on the left, you've got acidic lava. It's got a lot of silica in it, which makes it super viscous. I mean, think of it like thick, sticky toothpaste. It traps gases, which builds up this immense pressure, and that leads to those really explosive eruptions. On the right, you've got basic lava. It's low in silica, which makes it runny and fluid, kind of like honey. Gases can escape easily, so it tends to just flow out gently in what we call effusive eruptions. And this difference in how lava flows, it isn't just about the style of the eruption, it literally sculpts the landscape around it, building this whole family of different volcanic shapes. So, when that runny, basic lava erupts from these long cracks or fissures in the ground, it doesn't build a mountain at all. No, instead, it just spreads out over these vast distances, creating enormous flat plains and plateaus of lava. And then, in complete contrast, you have that thick, sticky, acidic lava. It's just too viscous to go anywhere. It basically can't flow. So it just piles up, right around the vent, cooling and hardening into a steep-sided, rounded mound that we call a dome volcano. And the variety is just incredible. I mean, on one end of the spectrum, you have these simple cinder cones, which are just built up from little bits of ejected, cooled lava. And then on the extreme other end, you have calderas. These are massive collapsed craters left behind after a volcano's magma chamber empties in such a violent, explosive eruption that the entire mountain just collapses in on itself. Okay, so we know what they are and how they're built. But where do you find them? Well, volcanic activity isn't random at all. It's actually concentrated in very specific zones all across the globe.
And the data is just crystal clear. A staggering 80% of volcanoes are found at convergent plate boundaries. That's where one tectonic plate is grinding underneath another, melting rock and building up incredible pressure. Another 15% form where plates are pulling apart, and the last 5% just kind of pop up in the middle of plates over what we call hotspots.
And this map right here brilliantly shows where that 80% is located. This horseshoe-shaped belt around the Pacific Ocean, this is the famous Ring of Fire. It is home to the vast majority of the world's active volcanoes, and it's a direct result of the huge Pacific Plate colliding with all the other plates around it.
So this brings us to the final and, maybe the most important part of our story, the profound impact volcanoes have on our world and on our lives. They are these incredible forces of both immense destruction and unbelievable creation.
And let's not downplay the danger. I mean, it's serious. Eruptions can unleash devastating volcanic bombs and super-fast mud flows. In the ocean, they can trigger tsunamis. Their massive ash clouds can even block out sunlight and lower global temperatures. And on top of all that, they release harmful gases that can cause acid rain and damage the ozone layer. The destructive power it's undeniable. But wait a second, is that really the whole story? Is a volcano only a threat?
No, absolutely not. Not even close. Volcanoes are a fundamental force of creation. They build new land, forming islands, plateaus, and mountains out of nothing. The same ash that can be so dangerous in the short term, well, it breaks down to create some of the most fertile soils on Earth, and the heat they bring up to the surface, it gives us beautiful hot springs and geysers, and it can be harnessed as a clean, powerful source of geothermal energy.
And that brings us right back to where we started. That one incredible fact. Volcanoes aren't just occasional disruptors, they are the planet's primary builders. They are the architects of the very ground beneath our feet.
So we've always lived with this dual nature, creator and destroyer. But as we get better and better at harnessing their immense internal heat for geothermal energy, will our perspective start to shift? You have to wonder, will we begin to see these fiery mountains less as an ancient threat and maybe more as a powerful partner in building a sustainable future? It's definitely something to think about.